this is really, really powerful, and I'll tell you why. Because you're going to set some goals, and you're going to fail. And you're going to go up to people, and they're going to reject you. And you're going to want things to work out, and they won't. And you're going to wake up some mornings, and, things will turn upside down on your head, okay? And you're going to have to learn how to tap into resources that you may have never had. And usually, it's the most telling times, the most difficult times in your life, the times where you're feeling the most pain or the most struggle, when you have to become the most resourceful. And in those times of struggle, you immediately tap into things that you didn't even know were possible. For example, you'll see women who, let's say his kid gets stuck under a car and they pick up the car on their own. Small women, like a 5'3", 5'2" woman, right? Exert all this force and energy and pick the car up off her baby and pull it out with one hand, And you see this and you're like, how can someone tap into these resources? Well, they tap into these resources because of the fact that they have to. They have to do it, therefore they tap into them. Now, why will our brain allow our resources to not be used entirely? Because we feel like we don't have to use them, right? The mind doesn't like to expend energy. It doesn't like to use things that it doesn't need to use. So therefore, it won't get you into that peak level of confidence. It won't allow you to experience that kind of motivation. It won't let you feel extremely happy unless it's a resource that you absolutely believe you have to have. So you have to condition your mind into believing that it needs to listen to you. It needs to have these resources. So how do we do that? Well, that's the next thing I want to talk about, right? How do I condition my brain to allow me to change my default setting? And that becomes a very, very important resource. So my default setting. Well, we have our goals. We know what we want. We're about to go, take the task. Now, in order to accomplish a goal, is it just one thing and then boom, you have your goal? No. So this is where we break down goals into micro goals and micro emotions, right? So if the ultimate goal, right, let's say it's here, that's the finish line, makes you feel one emotion. Now you have steps. And this is where you start. Okay? So if you're starting and you're going, now the emotion that will take you to this point might be different than the emotion that takes you to this point, which might be different than the emotions that take you to this point. Or you could break this down. You might have 50 different emotions before you get to this point or this point or this point. Now, why is this important to understand? Because you have to be in control of the emotions you're feeling and be flexible with them. And there are a set of positive resource states and a set of negative ones. The positive ones are what? What are positive emotional states? Happiness. What else? Confidence.
Excitement.
Whatever. All right, so look, let's just say happy, excited, confident, grateful. We all know what motivated, right? What are negative ones? Apathy, anger, stifled. Okay, now believe it or not, they all come from one of two emotions, and everything is stemming from these two things. Love and fear. Those are the only two emotions we experience. Every other emotion stems from those two emotions. So, I like to simplify. If you simplify, you can understand everything. Now, if you're going to feel positive resource states, it means you're focused on what kind of outcome? Positive. If you're feeling negative resource states, you're focusing on what kind of outcome? Negative. Why is it negative? Because you fear it. And what does this also translate to? Pain and pleasure. So, what does this mean? Well, this is a towards emotion. This is an away emotion. This is very important because now you'll understand how to use these things to get you to where you want to go. Okay? Every emotion you have is a towards or away, pleasure or pain. We move away from pain, we go towards pleasure. Can anyone think of pain that motivates them? For example, not being good enough. That's a pretty big motivator, right? So what do? You'll compensate for it in some way, shape, or form. You have to make enough money. You'll have to work out. You'll have to, become isolated. Different strategies, right? But these all come from these emotions, from pain. Pleasure. You want to go out. You feel excited. You're motivated. You want to be social. You want to share. Because when you're in abundance, you're feeling love. And when you feel love, what do people want to do? They want to share it, right? Does anyone here want to make a bunch of money and not spend it with anyone? If you had all the money in the world, but no one to share it with, would you want the money?
Probably.
No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't want it. Because in your mind, you're like, well, I'll still find my daughter and all this other stuff. But you wouldn't. Let's say you didn't have anybody. You're on a private island. You have all the money in the world. You could buy whatever you want, but there's no one to talk to. Then what?
That's the private point.
There you go. Right? So what does this mean about human behavior? It means that human beings want to give. And they want to have love, but most human beings don't have the ability to be generous because they're not in abundance, they're in scarcity. So another word for this is abundance. Scarcity. Okay. Is this starting to become clear now? I think this is pretty simple, how we tie everything together here, right? I'll do it for you. You set a goal, you're starting here. You have two options. You can use emotions that will take you there, or you can use emotions that will take you away. So there's the first thing we have to focus on, okay? The number one thing we have to pay attention to is if we knew that we focused on our finish line, all right, let's say this was a video game. Which emotions do you want to use? Do you want to use the ones that come from love or the ones that come from fear? To get to this, right? We're going towards it, right? Towards what? Towards the finish line. So which ones? We have to use the love ones, right? Okay. So if we have to use the love ones, what do we have to associate to the finish line? Pleasure or pain? Do we have to love what we're about to do, or do we have to fear what we're about to do? Love. So right now, everyone reflect on your goals. Do you love what you're about to get? Do you love your goals? Is there a lot of pleasure associated to the end goal? Are you going towards it or are you going away from it? Are your actions taking you closer to your goals or away from your goals? If your actions are taking you away from your goals, what emotions are you using? Fear-based ones. Now, can you use both fear and pleasure to motivate someone? Yes. But the only way to do that is if fear is at your starting point. That's the only way. The only way to make sure that you are consistently motivated if you're going to use fear is to make sure that you're always associating it to not wanting to go back to something. I don't want to go back there, therefore, I now have to keep going here. Right? So you accidentally go towards the pleasure to get away from the pain. Right? That's the best time pain will motivate you. Fear will motivate you. But there's a huge problem with being motivated by this. It's that as soon as the problem goes away, you chill out. You get comfortable. You lose motivation. Motivation from pain is only good as long as the pain exists. So one of two things will happen. You'll wait until the pain comes back, so you'll just kind of become complacent, you'll become normal, then the stress or the pain or the fear comes back, and you're like, let's move again. Or you'll look for it. You'll recreate it. You'll manifest it into your life over and over and over again until you don't have it, then you have to create it again. I'll give you an example. You'll go find a job. The job is not paying enough. So you'll find a job that's causing you some pain. Now that pain you use to motivate you. So you find a shitty job, you work, then at first it feels good because you had a shittier job before that was paying you $10 an hour, now you find a job that pays you $12 an hour. Now you go get this $12 an hour job, all of a sudden you start hating the job, it causes you some pain because your brain says, well, I'm not making enough money. So you go find a job that pays you $15 an hour. Then you do the same pattern. Same thing with relationships. Everything will be fine right at the beginning, because they're in pain, and the way to get out of pain is to be in a relationship by getting someone else's love. Once that kind of gets old and they get comfortable because the pain isn't there anymore, they'll recreate the pain. They'll sabotage the relationship, they'll cause problems, they'll start a fight, they'll cheat, they'll do something, and all of a sudden now there's a problem again in the relationship, their partner leaves them, they have pain again, they're not motivated again, right? to go work out or whatever. Problem is, it's a vicious cycle, and one thing can happen. It can either be a loop where you're constantly going back and forth, you'll kind of get in shape, you'll find someone you like, or you'll make some money, you'll pay your bills, then you get complacent, then stress comes back, and you do it all over again. You gain some weight back, then you go lose the weight, right? It's a constant pattern, but that's fear-based emotion. So what's the difference between love, right? Love-based emotions, pleasure-based emotions. They pull you non-stop. No matter what, you never stop. Imagine you had a kid. Some of you have kids, right? If you don't have a kid, imagine you have a kid. Are you going to stop loving them? Are you all of a sudden going to stop taking care of them? No, you're committing to them forever, your whole life. The rest of your life is dedicated to those kids. Now, because the rest of your life is dedicated to them and their growth, that comes from love. But imagine you were scared of your kids. You're going to want to be around them. If you knew they're going to come kill you and chop you up into pieces, you might still love them to the point where you don't care. You'll still be around them, right? But you might have a different relationship with them if you knew that they'd come chop off your head one day.
What if you're scared like you can't provide for them?
But that comes from love. You're not scared that you're not scared that you're not going to love them. You're not going to be there for them. If anything, your fear comes from the pain that you may not be able to provide for them, which motivates you. But the problem is, yeah, that's fine. But the problem is if you're motivated by pain, for example, not being able to provide for them, then you're never going to actually be able to provide. Because what are you focusing on? You're focusing on the negative, not the positive. So the finish line is no longer a positive outcome. Because you're focusing that you can't provide rather than you can. So all your actions then fall into what? Your finish line changes. You're either going towards something negative or positive. It just depends on what you focus on. Because intention, which is focus, equals direction, right? So if my focus and intention is going in this direction, right? If my intention is negative, my life will be negative. There's another infamous saying in NLP, it goes, where your attention goes, your energy flows, right? So if your attention goes to the negative, you will then follow to the negative outcome. Okay? So quite simply, here's the key to success. Focus on the most positive outcome. Anytime that changes, you change it back. Become aware of that as much as you can. Then, become aware of the emotions that gives you and feel those emotions. Anytime you don't feel these emotions, it's like a compass. It's telling you, hey, I'm focusing on the wrong outcome. Then change the outcome again. And you'll find that out of nowhere, you just end up getting to your finish line where you want to go. And constantly having something to go towards is really important. Most people are just going away from things and kind of wandering around rather than going towards something. Now, I have a really big problem with Plan B. Huge problem. Plan B means you're focusing on what? Failure. And Plan B really becomes Plan A. Because at the end of the day, if you're focused on it failing, will you fail? Yes. So unless you're all in on Plan A, you will fail. That's just how it is, right? When you have no other option, you'll make it happen every time. You will make it happen every time. But so many people are focusing on Plan B. They're focusing on the fact that they're going to fail. And therefore, all their attention, all their energy, all their emotional states, all their resources go towards failing. You see, your mind is so good at getting what it wants. It is so good at getting what it wants. And it will always get what it thinks it should have, whether it's good or bad. So make sure that what you want and what you're focusing on is a positive outcome, not a negative one. That is the number one thing you got to become aware of. Where am I heading? Not where am I heading tomorrow, but where is this heading? Right? When you see yourself not being able to provide for your kids, it's not something you see now. You see it in months from now or a year from now. They're all long-term things. So what you see in the long term is what's going to pull you. So you have to understand that, again, if you're focused on Plan B, you're focused on what you're not getting, you're focused on how you're going to fail, what you focus on is what you get. So we have to understand this principle. This is me tying everything together. Everything we go towards comes from love, comes from emotions of pleasure. And those are the best resource states, and they all come from focusing on the positive outcome. So you have pleasure states, motivation, excitement, but that only comes from when you believe in the positive outcome. I'll give you an example. I give everyone a lottery ticket. It's the losing ticket. Leave the seminar, go cash it. Who here is going to leave to cash it? You might optimistically do it, but you're not in a rush to go do it. But if you knew for a fucking fact that that lottery ticket was the winning ticket, you would get up right now, and you would go get that lottery ticket because you believe in the reward, which then creates the motivation, which then creates the outcome, right? So if you don't believe that there's a positive outcome, right, and that comes from a lack of confidence and that comes from the wrong focus, then there's no way you're going to be in the right state. When you believe in the positive outcome, you have confidence. You know, people ask me like, you know, is Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg confident? No, they're not confident. But what are they focused on? No, they're focused on the positive outcome. Something greater than themselves. Elon Musk tweeted, I believe, yesterday. He's like, a lot of people think I'm motivated for money to go get nice things, but I have no nice cars or yachts. And I'm like, you know, that makes sense. Or fancy houses, vacation homes, not nice cars. Of course he has nice cars. He has a Tesla, you know. Anyways, point is he says he has no vacation homes or yachts. The reason he's making money is so he can colonize Mars in case we fuck up Earth, and the other half of the money is to fix Earth. Now, what's the problem with those goals?
It's focusing on the negative.
On the negative, right? Like if we have to go to Mars, then we fucked up pretty bad because odds are we're not going to be able to survive on Mars. And even if we do, it'll be shitty quality of life compared to what it is here. You know? Point is that's the wrong way to think about it. He should think only about fixing Earth. But there's only so much one man can do. Now, you know, it'd have to be something that we... What?
No, Tesla cars, help the atmosphere by not putting carbons in.
They do, but the problem is that the batteries that they take to produce them are actually very bad as well for the ecosystem. So it's not a good alternative. Yeah, as a matter of fact, you'd have to drive a Tesla over 50,000 miles or something like that to be able to cancel out the fuel efficiency. So everything's going electric, and politically that's a nice move, but at the end of the day, it's not actually helping the environment that much. It actually hurts the environment because when it goes to waste, we have no way to really get rid of these batteries. It's really bad for the environment. It's actually worse for the environment than gas cars, but no one talks about it because...
The energy for the electric is made by coal.
Yeah. It just doesn't make sense. It's just all so people can feel better about a problem that's not actually gone. So, point is, you can look at things on the surface, you can look at things in black and white. I want to train you guys to see things as they are, not what they appear to be. Now, we look at this, okay? I'm going to break this down, and I want you guys to really understand this. If you understand this, you understand how to get anything you want, okay? Period. If you understand this, you can get anything you want, and you'll feel confident. Everything we do starts with one thing. What? The goal, right? Where do we want to go? We need direction. We need intention, we need direction. Now you have two options here. You know what you want, but now there's what you believe you can get. We know what we want, but then now we're faced with what we believe we can get. So we all want to be millionaires or billionaires. We all want to have everything we want, but do we believe we can get it? If you believe you can get the positive thing that you want, you'll focus on emotions of love, on giving, on growing. You'll be in abundance, right? You'll go towards it. You'll be motivated. You will not stop till you get it. No matter what, you'll find a way. If you do not believe you'll get what you want, well, then you believe you'll get something else, right? You either believe you can get what you want or you believe you can get what you don't want. But either way, you believe you can get something. So you have to realize that you may not be programmed to get what you want, but you always get what you want, right? So you might be having everything, like, okay, you could be having the worst experiences of your life, worst income, worst money problem, worst everything, right? Well, you're programmed to go get those things. So you're really good at creating problems for yourself, but you're not in control of that. So how do you take control? Well, now you have to take control of your focus. Am I focusing on how things are going to continuously be shitty? Because if you are, then you'll tap into these resources, right? And these negative resources will constantly create the negative outcome. You see, the brain is very good at finding a way to get there. So it'll either use the positive emotions to get you to where you want to go or the negative ones. So right now, I want everyone to think about their goals. You guys wrote down your goals earlier. I mean, that was the first thing we fucking did. So we all wrote down our goals. We all figured out what we wanted. Now ask yourself, first question, do you believe that you can get it? If the answer to that is no, then we know that your default setting is fear. And your default setting for emotions are probably negative-based emotions. So you're surviving in scarcity. You're pretty much, holding on to things. You're in a relationship you shouldn't be in because you don't believe that you can leave that relationship. You're not spending a lot of money because you don't believe you're going to make a lot of money. You're not really able to let go of toxic people in your life because you don't believe you'll replace them with other people. Right? That's scarcity. If you're in abundance, right, and you believe you can get it, you probably have better friends in your life. You'll probably be feeling better emotions. You might have some insecurities, but you'll probably be more successful. I predict you'll probably have more money, right, than the majority of the people who are going towards fear-based goals. Now, if you become aware that you don't believe that you can get the thing you want, realize this, and this is the conundrum or the irony in that belief. If you don't believe you can get what you want, you sure as hell believe you can get what you don't want.